Hello, everybody. Welcome to another little chat about how our sovereign dialogue sessions are going and what they're revealing and little points of interest that are coming out for David and myself to go into in a little bit more depth. Um, so making these videos available to people as a bit of background and maybe exploring some of the themes that come up more deeply or more fully than we have time for in the sessions. And this week we continued our embodied introduction through the elements with fire. And I don't know about you, but what I really noticed this week is how differently people experienced fire. First of all, I really noticed how much fire then came up in people's dialogue. Which it actually didn't for me. For mine, it was just it didn't actually. I don't think the fire theme landed much, but in
Yeah.
what our participants shared with us, there was a lot of fire analogies, symbols, themes that came up for them, but
Mm.
in very different ways, which to me just highlights the fact that things like you can work with something like the idea of the elements as a way of exploring your personality, tendencies and traits and things that you can strengthen or encourage more of in yourself. But it's so unique to each person that it's really valuable. It's both really simple and really rich.
Mm.
So like, with fire, like today, we had little kind of um a rather than a conflagration, more burning embers and for somebody on Tuesday, it was that idea of fire as a symbol of being a bit burnt out and the dangers of burning out and needing to know when to dampen your own fire a bit so that you don't reach that point.
Yeah.
And it was so rich, wasn't it? There was so much variety in how people explored it and experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give people some context, for people that are watching the recording or listening in live, this idea of the four elements is, well, we learnt it as part of our embodiment training as a way of cultivating ways of being. So in a kind of coaching context, there's a you could use each of the elements of earth, water, air, and fire as a kind of like a putting on a pair of glasses with different lenses in, and it's a way of that you can see the world in a slightly different way. So it's a you're kind of meeting life from a different version of yourself or a different part of yourself or aspect of yourself. And it's incredibly powerful, particularly if you do what was what we often call brain body storming. But this idea, if you've got this kind of one central theme, challenge, issue, problem that you might have, and that you embody the different elements and you're viewing that challenge, but from those different perspectives, and it's really rich, the stuff that comes up. And and so with fire, and you might need to help me to remember what some of these are, but with fire there is the kind of the heat of anger and strong emotion, um that I think you could probably include with that, like, just, passion. There's real passion. And then there's a second aspect to that, which is this one of action. So just kind of just getting things done, right?
Yeah.
Which really aligns to which aligns quite well to the warrior archetype that we obviously work with more. Whereas the passion and emotion one might be more leaning towards the lover archetype. Um, Can you think, is there a third one? I think there is a third fire aspect, but I can't remember
Well,
what
there's
it is.
fire often is shown with quite a speed and a focus to it. So there's fire has a real focus. It's
Yeah,
like see and go in
yeah.
a very kind of direct,
And there's a decisiveness to it, isn't there?
straight line, decisive,
Yeah,
active.
yeah,
Um, I've I find that very useful to explore in myself, and I find it useful to energize in myself sometimes as well. But I know that when I started using this in, for example, in trainings, and particularly with women, it worked much more to have a more kind of sultry, burning flame. For women generally, there
yeah.
seemed to be a bit more allegiance or recognition of fire as having that more licking quality than
Moldering.
that um,
Mm,
burn through everything,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
burn through everything quality.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And then
but it yeah, those I think those are the core aspects of
yeah,
it that I
yeah. And so, for example, whilst the fire element can be really great for, getting stuff done and inspiring people and getting people going and action and decisiveness, there is a potential of burning out at kind of like at that extreme end,
Mhm.
either burning yourself out or as a leader, burning the people that you're leading, burning them out
Mm,
because you're pushing them. And whilst that might be well within your capacity, it may not necessarily be within their capacity. So
mm,
kind of having that understanding of the fire element, when you embody it, you can have those lived experiences, and it's again just incredibly insightful
mm,
when you're using that. So when we're doing our sovereign leadership work, whilst we often focus predominantly on the archetypes, we do love to bring in things like the elements and the seasons and other other models, because it just helps people different models work for different people in different ways,
mm.
right? And then
Yeah.
it makes it easier for them to access the wholeness of who they are, by exploring these different models.
Yes, and there can be gaps in a model. So for me, the element of earth works offers something that isn't readily available, for example, through the archetypes, that precision and slowness that are qualities of earth, that really real steadiness, attention to detail, fine tuning of things. There's no archetype not in the core archetypes so much that we work with. I think aspects of sovereign have that, but
Mm,
I've always found the earth archetype very useful for some people to
mm,
be seen,
mm.
to because when you work with somebody earthy, for example, it's incredible. It it gave me an incredible appreciation of how earthy people are,
Yes.
and to acknowledge and appreciate them and the way they work without kind of laying my slightly more watery or fiery essence over them as if
Yeah.
it's better in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
But
and
yeah,
yet also the magician has earthy qualities to it
yeah,
as well, right? As an archetype. So there is no there is no fire just links only to warrior, or earth only links
yeah,
to sovereign, or water just links to lover. That
they
these things are
cross over in
exactly,
different ways, don't they?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It was
Anyway, we're kind of
interesting.
going off the topic, aren't we? But yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it today because that was one of the themes as well that I really noticed in the feedback that we got today, which was um, one of our participants talking about it really helping her writing, then going to like what she could let go of. It was like embers that would she could just let fly away from her core coals, and they just weren't needed. So she could just let these embers just filter off and fly
Yeah.
off to where they were needed more, maybe. And so for her, it was the lightening of the load. And I
Hmm.
really like the symbolism of fire doing that, of just going, yeah,
Yes.
let go of it, and off it goes, a little spark that just goes off to light somewhere else,
Yeah.
because it's not needed where you are, or it's not
Yeah.
most effective where you are, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, really, really liked it.
And I think on Tuesday evening, linked to that, there was this sense of Phoenix.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Phoenix
that kind
definitely
of that
came through,
burning
didn't it?
down of something. So that, yeah, that burning down of yeah, of whatever's in the flames, but that is an opportunity for rebirth, for transformation, for something new to emerge um, from that. So I think that's also a really powerful metaphor that emerged in some of the dialoguing on Tuesday evening that didn't show up this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even then found
Oh, look at that. How fabulous.
because while we were talking about it, somebody said, "Isn't there a phoenix emoji that we can use?" And I actually found one.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've really felt very touched and kind of awed by, not awed is the wrong word, encouraged and um yeah, encouraged by this week is the level of wisdom that is in the group,
Mm,
and the support, the wisdom, the support that's available when you bring together a small group of people and just let the relationships build.
mm,
Like these are relationships that people are just having through a session for large part. Some of the people know each other and out beyond what we're doing, but
mm,
a lot of them are simply meeting at this 1 hour session. They're meeting in breakout rooms, they're debriefing their sovereign dialogue together,
mm,
and yet that's led to a real enduring sense of any time somebody comes back, they always say, and thanks to my partner in the breakout room who really helped me see this in a different way, or who
mm,
really acknowledged um the 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 aspect of this that I wasn't acknowledging for myself,
yeah.
the good in it, or for example.
Yeah.
And I think that got talked about today as well, just the nourishment that's available in small groups. And I
Hmm.
think it really supports the way we first started talking about sovereign dialogue as an hour-long retreat,
Mm,
that takes place online,
yes.
because that's what it is. That's what it's become, isn't it? And it's so rich. And, I don't think it's particularly special or it's particularly us. I think it's simply what happens when you curate a space that people keep giving their energy to
Hmm.
and they keep returning to. And it's an inevitable consequence of that is that, the bonds of kind of mutual support simply get experienced in a really affirming way.
Yeah, mutual support. I think honoring is a big part of it. Acknowledging, um, blessing, even, you know.
Yeah,
I think, and I think all of those qualities, they're not unique to, but I think that they are very, very much a part of what it is to be sovereign.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think that there is something about, yeah, like I say, it may not be because of you and me. I don't think it is, but I think what we've created is this space for this sovereign archetype to really
Mm.
emerge and for people to see themselves and see each other through that lens.
Yes. and
Yeah.
and I think sovereign leadership has at its heart that it's in you, that the wisdom you need is in with you, that
Yeah.
the decision making you need is within you. You don't have to outsource anything, pretty much. I mean,
No.
obviously there's, expertise out there that it's useful to tap into sometimes, or bring
Mm,
into to whatever it is you're doing, but when it comes to that you're enough, that we're all enough,
mm,
and that what we have within us, when we know how to give it space to come out,
yes.
is more than enough.
Yeah.
Just more than enough. And you're right. I mean, I think it's an aspect of when people come into groups together, and when they have space and time to build those bonds. But I do think the fact that we always say in the breakout rooms, so be in your sovereignty as you listen, as you
Yes.
witness your partner, and it really helps prevent any tendency towards fixing or resolving tension. It's just like people really honor that aspect of being a witness,
Mm,
which again and again we hear is one of the most valuable parts of what that the session brings.
sure.
But also when you're sharing, to share from that space of sovereignty, because it means you'll pick out the little bits of um, the things that glimmer in maybe what you've been writing about, or the stream of consciousness that you've been following, and something new might pop out when you're speaking it,
Exactly.
that helps deepen your relationship with it.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, yeah, I do think I agree that it really supports it. The qualities of sovereign really support
yeah.
the depth of the interactions that we're witnessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then today, such a beautiful moment when we've got a participant who has given us permission to talk about what she's been expressing a bit, which is some, you know, some grief in her family,
Mm,
and the fact that her dialogue was about that is natural enough. It's what's live for her at the moment. It's very consuming. It's you know, very important for her, so of course it would come up in her dialogue. And then the fact that she kind of wasn't, she she really wanted to share, and she did share,
she did.
but she shared with her, I don't, you know, I don't want to bring the group down. And yet what happened was absolutely the opposite of
Mm,
that. You know, of course, there was a tenderness as she shared, and a kind of reverence for what she's going through.
mm,
Um, but to me, what I noticed was what depth that brings, her willingness to be vulnerable, share what she's up against, and the intensity of that for her brought this beautiful well of depth of feeling and responsiveness from the group
mm.
that was just
I think it's
sublime
percent. Yeah.
and really touching.
Mm, yeah.
Uh,
And she really lent into the metaphor of the flame and this idea that you know this situation that she finds herself in with a family member is marking the end of the flat this family member's flame, and just the beauty of that. And then what she said was, even in my sovereign, I can't I can't save this family member from that. And I think that, well, certainly I've been guilty of thinking that, well, if I'm in my sovereignty, then I can do anything and I can, get whatever outcomes that I want. And I have to keep reminding myself that that isn't the point and that
mm,
isn't what happens. But with whatever situation we find ourselves in, we can still be sovereign,
mm,
even, you know, and perhaps, and it's just as important to be in our sovereignty when things don't go our way, and that when situations do are painful for us, it's just as important to be in our sovereignty then as it is to be in our sovereignty when we're flying high and succeeding and everything's going our way. Sovereign has a way of grounding us in both of those situations, which I think is incredibly important.
mm.
Mm,
Yeah. And also it helps in how you can access the way you respond to that situation rather than reacting to it. You can respond to what's happening in a way that comes from your sovereignty and that sees the sovereignty in others. And so I think particularly when it's hard, it means you see the value even
mm,
in those hard times. You see the tenderness, you feel you experience it fully rather than skating over for it, for example. Because I think, you know, at a time of grieving, quite often it's a very common response to want to kind of skate over it and get it over with.
Yep.
And sovereignty, invites us to be in it, to experience this is life. Even when it's the ending of a life, it's life.
Yes.
And um, certainly I know I experienced a lot of that when my mum died earlier this year, just the depth of that and the beauty of that. I mean, the absolute beauty that although it was the end of her life, it was still her life.
Mm.
And the way she approached it, the way my mum approached it, was very much my mum, but with some new, really, really powerful aspects to her that this time drew out of her or
Right.
made obvious to us all. So she
Right.
she became even more herself at
Yeah.
the end of her life for me, and
Mm.
I was so glad to not that I, was impeccable in how I accessed that. I kind of no doubt kicked off occasionally in my
Sure.
dealing with it, but in generally the skills I've learned meant I could really be with her
Mm.
on that in that time,
Mm.
that was just amazing and a gift and powerful, and
Yeah.
you know so I do
Mm.
really, I sense that feeling of sovereignty giving us a relationship with life that is very connected and very real
Yes.
and deep and precious, really precious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was
Thank you for sharing that.
honored. I really honored her for coming, for coming today to
Mm.
today's session, because she
Yeah.
nearly didn't, and
Mm.
yet she got something really valuable from it,
Yeah.
and giving us the opportunity to really support her,
Mm.
not just you and I, but the whole group, and the way, because you're coming to a session, you don't necessarily know something like this is going to come up,
No.
so it can be challenging. Like maybe if
Mm.
you're in a totally la-di-da joys of spring frame of mind and somebody brings something much more somber, maybe, for example,
Mm.
that's what I found so incredible. Just that willingness to go, oh, okay, no, I'll move into your wavelength now to be
Yes.
with you. That's fine. And but still able to go back to how they were and
Yes.
not pick it up almost.
Yeah.
So the shares continued afterwards
Mm.
in a completely natural way after a really beautiful pause that nobody felt they needed to fill,
No. No.
which I thought was really awesome.
Mm. And I was leading that part of the call, and I re and I recall the person sharing about her grieving, and she finished, and then I opened the call up to whoever wanted to speak next. And there was probably maybe 30 or 40 seconds of complete silence. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, no one wants to share. And then I realized, kind of sensing the space, I realized, no, 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 people are just allowing whatever that was to just settle.
Mm.
And then when it felt right, then it was time for the next person to share their piece. And I just thought that was such a beautiful act of sensitivity
Yeah.
that I missed until I caught it. But
Mm.
but yeah, that was really amazing.
Yeah, because as a facilitator, nobody likes too much of a gap, do they? So it's
No.
very tempting to step in and say something or
Yeah.
encourage or
Yeah.
make it all right. And I felt that I was really aware of that science, and I came to that same realization as you, of
Right.
thinking,
Okay.
I know this is very cool,
Yeah.
and there's nothing to be done here.
No.
There's nothing to be done.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was beautiful. What an awesome group of people.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, certainly if you're listening to this and you've not come to any sessions, or you've maybe been to one or two and you haven't been back, these these are great people you'll be working with,
Yeah.
really lovely, interesting, wise people who are all in different stages of life, lots of different stuff going on. And so it's one of the most attractive factors of joining Sovereign Dialogue, I think,
Mm.
is the group that we have who are regularly turning up for it,
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more.
bringing their whole selves to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So we got,
then,
yeah, we got, well, I was just going to say, I think there's one more on our list, which is
yeah,
about the power of small
small
actions.
actions. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. So kind of somebody just celebrating the fact that they'd managed to, get. I think what was it? It was one small action that had been bothering her for ages, and she finally got it done. And she said it was so easy, and now I can't even remember what it was, but
Yes.
it's been scratching at her kind
Yeah.
of to-do list for ages, not done. And
Yeah.
then she does it, and she's like, I can't even remember what it was now, but it's
Yeah.
done. It was just, I
Yeah,
thought,
that was,
yeah, I know that feeling.
yeah. I think everyone on the call could relate to that
Yeah,
feeling.
and I know, certainly I know the resonance of small actions, and I think particularly when you're developing in your self-awareness and your awareness of the vision that you want to bring to life, it can be very tempting to think you've got to go big or go home.
Mm.
And that, you need to take, and there are some modalities, aren't there, that go take big action, go power through, and it's, you know, to me, it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that does not work for me. It works for a certain personality type,
Yeah.
and that's it. And other people can pick it up for a while and be amazingly energized by it, but then it's
Yeah.
actually anathema to them, and they find it very exhausting and inevitably fall
Yeah.
off that steam train. Um, but the power of small actions. So, we most people, I would say, probably have an experience of procrastination and putting things off
Mm.
and not engaging with those things that are most important to you. We do have a protective factor about really going for the things that we most love.
Mm.
And I think we underestimate the power of a small action towards it.
Yes.
Like that little pulse of, for me, it's often, it's particularly around writing and drawing, because those are two things I love that I can deny myself very regularly
Mm.
and do other bits of life instead.
Yeah.
And yet when I simply get to do it and then I do it, even if it's simply a doodle or, do a silly little bit of drawing or write a few words, write a sentence.
Mm.
That sentence might just be a sentence, but I feel like, yeah, I've done something, I've progressed my writing. Or
Yeah.
it might expand into a few pages of writing.
Sure.
Um, if I don't follow that urge, then it doesn't. It goes away and it goes into that kind of dead pool of not taking action.
Hmm.
But if you choose to take small action, I, for me, it builds a resonance very quickly to
Mm.
that level where you're raising the vibration at which you're functioning by following through on the things that are important to you and that really resonate with your heart and with your sense of expressing yourself fully in the world.
Hmm.
And that happens, that rise comes astonishingly quickly when you
Yeah.
follow through with small actions that become bigger actions that become bigger actions.
I agree.
And suddenly you meet that resonance where life starts to meet you, and it starts throwing up all the great things and the amazing people and the
Yeah.
ideas and the resources that you need
Mm.
so readily.
Yeah.
um and so, yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the power of small actions.
Yeah. So I think there's another part to that, but I really do love what you say about yeah, if you take little actions that have resonance, then yeah, then you're building that momentum at kind of like at that vibration or at that wavelength, right? So
Mm,
that's kind of, and I also think that there's something about, well, I would say it's like keeping yourself clean. So like you know that feeling of like walking through brambles or walking through um briars that have got hooks in them, and so you're constantly getting snagged and you're constantly having to stop and pull them out, and then you move on again and then you get caught again. And I think that there's something in our minds about, if I don't act on that thing, then that thing stays in my mind and
mm,
it's a thing that I can get snagged on.
yeah.
So it slows me down, and it um dilutes my energy because I'm having to hold this and this. Whereas if we can just get those little things done, they fall away,
Mm,
and then I'm much more streamlined and my energy can go in that direction, and there's a real momentum building that comes with that. And that's another part of that that I also recognize that I think is
mm,
incredibly important with these small actions.
definitely.
Mm.
It becomes like it becomes like a paper cut, doesn't it? Where you're fully healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. This amazing body is functioning.
Mm.
There's no disease in it. There's nothing actually wrong. And you get a paper cut.
Yeah.
And instead of you concentrating or feeling the value of this amazing body, it's like, ow,
Yes.
ow, ow, that hurts. And it's tiny compared to all of this that's going brilliantly.
Yeah.
But your awareness just gets snagged on it
Yeah.
because it's a it's a
Mm.
burr. It's a,
Yeah.
like you say, it's exactly that. And
Exactly.
yeah, you can. I like. It's a very good way of expressing it.
Mm.
Just those little things that you ignore, just
Mm.
they keep pulling at you, and they affect you. They do affect you. They affect
Mm.
your state of mind, your well being, in a powerful way. I think.
Mm. So I think sovereign leadership is, or part of sovereign leadership is being able to notice those moments, right? Like,
Yeah.
are you are you taking those small actions, or are you avoiding them, or are you um, just kind of putting them off a little bit, and then noticing the impact that that has, right?
Mm,
So sovereign leadership is so much about awareness, and that awareness then gives you the ability um, to choose more wisely, more skillfully,
mm,
what your actions are going to be and how you're going to respond to things. So I
mm,
think all of these are great examples of exactly that.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awareness and choice.
Awareness and choice.
So simple.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's
A
everything I
wrap.
felt to cover
Yeah,
today.
I agree. I think the same. So you're away next week. So
Um,
I'm, we're not going to run a session next week. We'll keep that clear. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, which I think is the 7th of May.
mhm.
And we'll be back at 4 o'clock on the 7th of May. But the Sovereign Dialogue sessions, they'll be running as normal next week. I'll be running those on my own. So Tuesday at 7 in the evening, Thursday at 8 in the morning. And I'll be running those sessions live then. So if you're interested in coming along, then please sign up and the link will be in the notes.
Great.
Great. We'll wrap
Thanks,
it up
David.
there. Thanks, dear. Bye.